Thank you. Fabulous. Fabulous. So I'll begin by saying welcome. Thank you all so much for joining both in person and remotely. It's so cool to be able to do this. Reg is here. He is in uniform. I've seen him on screen. Some of you can hear and see him, and we'll be listening to him. It may be possible, those of you who are present in person, if you want to access the Zoom link, that may be one way for you to see Reg better. You can give that a try if you want. Though I think it may be the departments that will try to record what's going on here.
The problem is that I have to have it on here. Yeah, I don't have the link.
So some of you don't have the link. Well, we'll try to make it work. So for Reg, just so you know who is here, so we have Kevin and Tony Kunter. You remember Tony, the exercise guru, and her son Kevin are here. Ginger Isham is here. Carmen is here. Armand is here. Leslie is here, and as well as Ted and Kim Marcy. And so I think you know all these folks who are here. I don't know who's with us remotely. And Jackie, do you have any names there that you want to share? I don't know if folks want to identify themselves, but
we have Sandy and Sally Mae and Carolyn and Larry Pillsbury, Charlie and Ruth. And
what was that? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jackie. I'll repeat the names.
We have Reg, of course, and we have Bob and Carolyn and Larry and Charlie and Ruth, Jane Stickney, Nancy and Ken, Sally Mae, Sandy, am I saying that right, Charlie? If I've missed anybody, yes. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
So, Reg, you got all those. I won't try to repeat all those, but it sounds like there are maybe as many as a dozen folks who are joining us remotely, which is really cool. So that's really neat. So, again, what we're going to do here is because Reg is in uniform, Reg's going to share with us a bit of what he has done every Memorial Day in this site, in this setting when he was here living in Williston. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to hear some of that. You can ease closer to the camera, to the cell phone if you want to be able to listen to that. But we'll do that. And then if Leslie wants to say a word about the beautiful flowers that she has planted at the gravesite, we'll do that. And then we'll close with a prayer. So it will be a brief time. The rain is falling here, so we won't take a whole lot of time. But Reg, in uniform, we are honored to share in this moment with you. We're delighted that you are going to allow us to participate with you in honoring Newell Langley today. So, Reg, the floor is yours.
I'll do this from Eddie. Thank you all who are there, and thank you all for Zoom for coming. This is really a special treat. I wasn't looking forward to Memorial Day as much because I knew I wouldn't be up there, but this makes me feel as though I am. And I just want to start by saying that it isn't just Newell Langley that I honored whenever I did this, and for all the times I do it. It is for all of the 151 men of color from the state of Vermont who fought in the Civil War, roughly half of whom returned. And of that number, half made it all the way back to Vermont and continued on their lives, as did Newell, and lived out their lives and are buried in various cemeteries in Vermont. For those of you who don't know, Newell enlisted at the age of 36. He served out his time in the war. He mustered out in 1865. He returned to Vermont, to Williston, to be a farmer. He passed away in 1903, and this headstone commemorates not just him, but his wife and his son and his two daughters, who are buried here. And just a real quick, brief history. When I started doing this research, I had to be an individual reenactor, obviously, since there were no Black units from Vermont. And I found research sources that told me the names of all Black Vermonters who had fought in the war. And I went down the list, and wouldn't you know, I found the only one with Williston next to his name. And I looked him up, and it said that he was buried in Morse Cemetery. I asked a number of Vermonters, old Vermonters from Rotary Club and other places where Morse Cemetery was. And none of them could tell me, except for, bless her heart, Deb Beckett, who told me that I should contact the town's cemetery commission. I didn't even know towns had cemetery commissions. But I did, and I spoke to a lady who couldn't wait to meet me at the gravesite. I think at one point she actually thought I was related to him, and that's why I was looking so hard. But the stone that you see now it's in much better condition now than it was then. It's actually readable now. And on top of that, the Rotary Club of Williston was generous enough to put up that plaque, which is next to it. Newell and the other men of color from Vermont, when they decided to enlist in the war, they couldn't enlist in Vermont. Most of them had to go to Massachusetts to enlist. And Newell and his brother and several cousins who were in the Heinsberg, Williston, Ferrisburg area went to Massachusetts, and they enlisted. At one point, Newell and his brother were actually both put in the 54th Massachusetts Infantry. And then it was decided that two brothers shouldn't be in the same regiment. So his brother was moved to the 55th Infantry. And it is a privilege in doing this. We remember a little bit, or we try to remember as much as possible about the sacrifice that these men made and all the men like them made. It is a part of Vermont history that's not told or recognized anywhere near as much as it should be. I think oftentimes when people look at situations and they say, gee, I wonder how we got here in the first place. Well, remembering and acknowledging history would be a swell way to answer that question. Mm-hmm. So anything we can do to keep that message alive, I, for one, want to keep doing it as long as possible. And you all are helping to do that by the fact that you are here and you come and visit and you listen. There isn't a whole lot more I think I can say. This being Memorial Day, it certainly speaks for itself. Just as a point of information for those of you who live in the area, there's a cemetery just off of North Avenue. I think it's either before or after where the high school is. And for those of you who know where that cemetery is, there are 5 other men of color from Vermont who are buried in that cemetery. So if you ever have the opportunity, you might go and visit there and pay respects to them. I'd be happy to answer any particular questions that anybody might have that might help fill in any blanks I've left. If not, Paul, if you could say a few words.
I have a question, Reg. My question
so, Reg,
is...
thank you so much for allowing us to be part of this.
Paul?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Charlie, Ruth has a question for Reg. There's a few folks online.
Please, yes, please, go ahead, Ruth.
Okay. My question is, have you done this presentation to any of the students at the Williston Central School?
I volunteered to do this presentation several times to a number of schools, and the response was generally, well, we'll talk about it and let you know. And I never got any answer back. So the answer to your question, Ruth, is no, I haven't. I did do it at one school. It was a school that Mike Isham's wife was teaching music at the time. And they were, and they were studying music of the Civil War era. So he thought it'd be a good idea if I went and talked to them, which I did. So that's the only school group in Vermont that I've done this presentation for so far.
And Reg, I'll chime in on that point just to mention that, of course, that Ginger Isham is right here with us. And it's great to know that that Helen had invited you to make that presentation at her school when she was teaching. That sounds very meaningful. And of course, Reg, you inspired us as a church, and in turn, our education committee at the church last September to gather in the same spot where we had that program where we reach out to the community and specifically reach out to our own young people and other young people. And many of you folks are here right now. We're here for that event as well. It's so powerful, Reg, that you remind us of the importance of lifting up this history and passing on this history. And you've inspired us to do that, Reg. That's why we are here. And we thank you so much for that. That is a gift to us and to our community. And we're so blessed. Are there other questions for Reg? Well, if not, just thank you, Reg. I want to thank God. So let's take a moment for that prayer. Oh, so yeah, I was about to step on Leslie's fire. Did you want to say something about your view? Leslie, jump in, please.
Very quickly. So these flowers are in memory of Newell, but they're also in appreciation to you, Reg, for bringing Newell to all of us and for allowing us to participate in this way. It means a great deal. So the flowers are for Newell and for you.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome, buddy.
Thank you for planting.
I'll take care of them.
That's important.
Also in the chat is a link to a book that Reg had lifted up for me and for many others around discovering Black Vermonters, and Newell's family and history is listed in that as well.
And that's the Guyette book.
Well, if you could stand to the left, then we could see the grave. Thanks.
Right. That's the Guyette book. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a fabulous resource, Jackie. Is why I encourage you to read the Guyette book.
I would just like to quickly share, since this is Memorial Day, I would like to share one tidbit from my Civil War research that you might find interesting. And it has to do with the origin of the theme that everybody is familiar with, caps. I don't know, I'm sure everybody has heard it. I'm not sure if everyone knows its origin. I certainly didn't. I didn't even know that the song had words, which it does, which I couldn't repeat if I had to. But the story, as it's told in Civil War history, is that during the Battle of the 7 Days, which obviously was a 7-day-long campaign between Union and Confederate forces, it was day 3 or 4, and there was a forward Union artillery position. They were in sight of the Confederates, and Confederates were in sight of them, and the commanding officer was getting his men prepared for the night, and a rider came up and told the commanding officer that one of his junior officers had been killed. And it wasn't just any junior officer, it was a young man who he had come to become very fond of. In fact, even thought of him as a son. When he got this news, obviously he was very upset, and he ordered 2 men to go claim the body and bring it back to his position, which they did. He then sent a runner back to the main Union camp to tell his commanding officer that he wanted to have a military funeral for this young man, which at that time would have meant a 4-gun salute. And would he send up 4 men who would do that? Well, the commanding officer came up himself and told this Union officer, no, you cannot have a military salute. And he, of course, wanted to know why. And the commanding officer told him, you see those rebels over there? They have no idea this is a salute. You start firing guns, they're going to think it's an attack warning. Then they'll start shooting. And at dark, we're going to have a fight we don't want. So you can't do it. No. The officer was, needless to say, despondent and upset. And he sent a runner back to camp and told him to fetch the bugler. You can imagine the poor bugler had no idea why he was being called to a forward position at this hour, and was not really enthusiastic about going, but he went. When he got there, the officer told him, I'm going to say a few words for this man. We prepared a grave, and then I want you to play something. And the bugler said, what do you want me to play? And he said, I want you to play taps. Not just the part that you usually play, the whole thing. And the bugler was a bit taken aback and asked him if he was sure that's what he wanted. And the officer said yes. And so the bugler played it. And that was the first time that taps was played at a military man's funeral. And it became a staple ever since then.
Oh, wow. Wow.
The little extra information for this Memorial Day for you.
That's a great story, Reg. Wow. Thank you so much. Jackie, are there other questions for Reg in the chat?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anybody who's here in person want to ask Reg a question?
Did the brothers survive?
So, Reg, Kim is asking if, if Newell's brothers survived.
To the best of the information I have been able to gather, yes, they did. And they all, I would say they all died in between 1900 and 1915. Newell died in 1903. His wife passed on in 1909.
Wow. Great. Any other questions for Reg? Well, if not, why don't we take a moment for a prayer on this Memorial Day weekend. Oh God, we come with gratitude for the privilege of being part of this moment, for the privilege of lifting up and celebrating the life of someone who served his country, even at a time when his country was not necessarily fond of serving him. And for Newell Langley and for all of those other Vermonters of color who served in the Civil War, and other Vermonters of color who have contributed so much to the state and to the world, we are grateful. And on this Memorial Day weekend, remember them, honor them, we lift them up. And we are grateful, oh God, for Reg Melrose and his dedication, his tireless commitment to bring to the fore these stories, this history that is so important. History that not only will inform us, but can inspire us. And history that can help us better move forward in a world where we hope the spirit of inclusion and honor and mutual respect will prevail. And we pray that you will guide us and use us in that process. We give you thanks for each person who's joined this session, either in person or online. May each of us be inspired to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with you. Lead us forward, O God, in this and every day. In the name of the Prince of Peace, this Memorial Day, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you all for being part of this. Blessings.
It was a wonderful idea. Yes, very cool.
Thanks so much for being
Thanks,
part
Reg.
of it. Yes, thank you, Reg.
Thank you,
all.
Reg.
Thanks,
And
Reg.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
if people could gather behind Newell's grave, then those on Zoom could see
Yes.
folks who
Wonderful.
are gathered there.
We're going to assemble behind the tombstone so everybody can see us. Everybody who's online can see us.
So
Armand's taking a picture. So
do a selfie.
What a group. What a group.
So
what a group.
This is Armand, y'all come in here so people get to see you too.
I'll do a selfie.
And then we have to do one with Armand in it.
Yeah,
Here, I'll do it.
Yeah, and Leslie's doing a strict selfie. So
There we go.
He knows how to do that. Yay. Nice job.
Good. You're gonna have to send me that.
What a group. What a group.
All together gathered from Georgia to Vermont.
So exciting. Thank you all so much for being part of this. It's a joy to have you with us.
We'll have this on YouTube later today, and also we'll have the resources that we have in the chat for the Langley family as well.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Thank you all. Be safe.
Happy Memorial Day. God bless you all.
Happy Memorial Day. God bless you.
Memorial Day. Thanks, Reg.
My pleasure. Be safe, folks.